Welcome everybody to Sideline Sports. I am Trevor, your host. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Thank you for joining. Today's a special day. Our first guest ever on the show here, Daryle the Guru Johnson from 95.7 The Game. Appreciate you being here, man. How's it going?
All right, Trevor, I'm just trying to get answers. I appreciate the invite, man. I'm excited.
Oh man, me too, me too. First guest ever, and I landed a good one, man. So a couple of questions I had. I know you talk about this on the radio all the time. I keep asking the same question in my head over and over again. So I'm just going to say one thing that I don't hear as much is the talk about Coach Kerr. And what I was going to ask you is do you think he's kind of, I don't want to say lost the locker room. Do you feel like maybe he's coaching? How do I say this?
Okay.
His coaching style doesn't seem to match up with the players that he has on his bench. In other words, I feel like, in a way, he's coaching as if he still has a championship roster, and he doesn't quite have that. And so I feel like he's toying around with the roster a lot, and kind of not letting these guys gel a little bit more. I just feel like the starting lineup is changing way too much, and I wonder what you feel about that.
You know what, Trevor? It's a great question, and I'll say one thing, and I'll start here. Coach Kerr, he's a made man. He's got 4 championships, right? And I will say the handling of Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, just going back a couple years ago, I do wonder now where they would be had they been Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome. If you had the foresight, and maybe it's bigger than him, maybe it's Lakeup and it was Myers and Kirk Lakeup. But the bottom line is, when you think about that moment in time, why would Kuminga and Moody not be afforded those luxuries to go through their basketball puberty? And then now when you need them, when Curry and Dre might need a little more rest and they're older, it's a natural older, maybe they would be further along. And I do question Steve Kerr on that front. I appreciate what he's done. He's a made man. But I got to tell you something, Trevor, not to be long-winded here. The reason I'm scrapping, I'm fighting because I'm desperate now as a Warrior fan. I don't like what I see. But when Coach Kerr comes after games and talks about his players, I mean, these are champions, don't have confidence. I don't know. In my world, Trevor, that's either you got the wrong players or the wrong coach. But to say that twice in the last 2 weeks is puzzling. And then I wonder, as Kuminga made strides this year, he kind of did it by himself. Let's be honest. It was almost by default. I remember a couple years ago, just going back to Moses Moody, Coach Kerr told him before the game against the Kings in Sacramento, hey, you're out of the rotation. Injuries happen. He scores 20-something points. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why would a guy like that, Trevor, ever be out the rotation? So now more than ever, after the game against Boston on Martin Luther King Day at home, it was the first day that I ever said, are they playing hard? And I got to be careful. I question effort, but it is fair now when people call the show Steiny and Guru, or you ask me that question. I'm starting to lead more towards, I don't think he's never had to lean on young guys. It was a strength in numbers.
Yep.
So I don't know, but I will say this. I'm a little disappointed because now I'm looking back like, where would they have been had they been committed to? But before I'm done, Trevor, real quick here,
Oh, no, keep
Jordan
going.
Poole. Does Coach Kerr get credit for Jordan Poole? Went to the G League, came back, balled out, 25, 30, whenever you need me, Coach. And we know what unfortunately happened, but I got to put that on the positive ledger of Steve Kerr with Jordan Poole.
Yeah, 100%. I look at Jordan Poole now and I start thinking to myself, maybe
Oh,
that was a missed opportunity because, getting rid of Jordan Poole at the time, maybe it solved some problems in the locker room, possibly. But in the long run, Jordan Poole, and I want to be careful, but I kind of wish we had Jordan Poole instead of Kaminga. And I know that's an unpopular
no, I'm
opinion.
not
You
mad
had to
at you.
choose,
Hey, I hear
but
you.
but I think I'd rather have Jordan Poole right now because Kaminga goes in spurts, but he hasn't really turned the corner. I look at him as more of a trade piece than anything else right now. I really do. And when you look at trading, by the way, are they going to make a move or is this season's almost more frustrating than last season? And the reason I say that is because I kind of knew what I was getting last season. And this season, I thought we were upgrading. I thought we were kind of turning the corner. We're going to be a little bit better, one or two moves away from playoffs. Now I wonder if one or two, just one move is enough to get us over.
Wow.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, T. And I'll tell you what, man. I knew, good times don't last forever, and I should say great times, 4 championships, and I do understand things, come to an end. But I never envisioned last year losing to the Sacramento Kings without Malik Monk and Keon Ellis doing what he did, and our team looking old to where Steph Curry, where I deem he has enough left. Is the 26-year-old Steph Curry? No, but he's not at the top of the list of this team's problems. So I didn't know it was going to happen this quick. And right now we're 21-21 outside looking in the play-in. So to answer your question, I'm sorry, Trevor. I'm going all in. If I could get Jimmy Butler, if I could get Kevin Durant or whoever's out there, Zach LaVine, I'm doing that because there's no sure shot in regard to trusting the process with the picks. I get it, but is this how we're going to do Steph Curry? Is this how the Draymond Green the game is coming to an end? So if you ask me, I don't think a trade's coming, but I got to tip my cap to Joe Lacob. You didn't ask, but I'll tell you, T, because he's catching some heat. He spent, he spent, he spent.
Yeah.
He was over the luxury tax. I feel like the apron was a Joe Lacob rule. That's another,
Oh,
story for another
100%.
day.
That was
Okay,
100% a Joe Lacob rule. They didn't want
no
to.
doubt.
And
But the
here's the
bottom
thing.
line is, I mean, how can this be okay? How can this be? I'm hurt, and I'm not a Steph Curry fan more than a Warrior fan. I love Steph. I love Dre, but
Right.
something's got to give, and I would rather go all in and come up short than say, you know what? What Steph shockingly said, along with Kerr and Draymond, which was odd this last week and a half, just getting a shot. That was odd, but you asked me, and I'm hell yeah. I would do whatever I could to try to get a proven vet. And that's why I appreciated, even if it was lip service, I don't believe it was,
No,
going after Paul George, going after marketing. And for all the people saying, Trevor, oh, look, Paul George is hurt, marketing is this or that. We don't ever know what would have happened had they been in Warrior uniform.
it's
So
true.
there's that.
We don't know. And by the way, I'm not totally against the move being made. I'm looking at the way the Warriors are conducting themselves right now, and it
Mm,
scares me thinking that they're not going to make a trade, I guess is what I'm saying. I would go all in on somebody like a Jimmy Butler too. Why? Because even if we don't get over the top this year with him, we have him next year. We have the offseason. We can build around him, Curry, Green, and I would love to see Moses Moody play a lot more. I'm with you. When I see a guy like Santos come into the games in the last two or three games, and I'm seeing him play harder than anybody else on the court,
wow.
I do think that's a problem because you have now. I'm not the other guy that is a guy I really wouldn't want to get rid of, and maybe other people think differently. Is I like Andrew Wiggins right now. I think he's back to playing the way he did before. I know he's a guy that probably would be included in the trade. I I don't know what that trade's going to be, but I agree with you. I would go all in for somebody and build around Curry and Green and whoever that other guy is, and go from there. Go from there because I don't believe a Jimmy Butler this year gets you a championship, or if I mean, maybe
Yeah.
they're a dark horse. Maybe you can be one of those teams. They did it a few years back. Nobody thought they were going to win. They did it. So I would do that, even if it meant pushing off building the team. It's a building block. It's a building block going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you. And if you were to trade for Jimmy Butler, you got to think about it, Trevor. He's up for a new deal. So, what would we be doing? Mortgage in the future with picks? And I would do it. And it would be a 2, 3 year window, however many years Steph and Dre have together. But right now, what's happening, I don't like what I'm hearing. Obviously, I don't like what I'm seeing. And the Kuminga injury, Trevor, I know you didn't ask, has come at the most inopportune time. And, they got Sacramento here their next game, and you would think payback is what,
Yeah.
but I don't know where this team's pulse is at now.
I feel like I know where the team's pulse is at, and I don't really like it.
Mm,
That's where I'm at, man. I hear you, and that I was gonna maybe talk about his injury a little bit. The only thing I would say about his injury, it's bad on two fronts. One, if you were really trying to move him, it's harder to move him now a little
yeah,
bit. And then two, you're falling farther and farther back. If you look at the standings, a 2 or 3 game win streak gets you back in not only in the play-in but maybe into the playoffs, and they still have some time. So I just hope they make a move. That's all I'm saying is that I hope they make a move and get something going to where we see some exciting times. Buddy Hield is falling off a cliff. I don't know why. I don't understand it. He's getting good looks. He's pressing sometimes. Sometimes I'm seeing him press when he's got 2 or 3 guys on him and he's going for it anyway when he shouldn't be. But by and large, he should be scoring a lot more. And when he scores, like you probably know, when he scores 18, 19 points a game, they walk away winning 9 out of 10 of those games. So, that's a little bit of a disappointment for me. I don't, up and down this roster, Dennis Schroeder's starting to gel, but he's still only 12, 13 points a game, not lighting the world on fire. I like Trace Jackson Davis, but he doesn't have the height. I do like his tenacity. I like how he gets to the rim. I like how he plays, but when you go against a team like the Celtics or a bigger team like Minnesota, he can't compete with those guys. He just doesn't have. I just don't think has the height to him. He's how tall is he? 6'7", 6'8", I think
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's just not quite tall enough to really to make a difference against some of those other big men. I don't think. I'm not saying get rid of him. I like him a lot. He's one of the guys I like the most on this team.
But Trevor, I'll
But
say this.
yeah,
I don't know if you know this, but the Warriors are last in free throws.
I do.
Okay, that's one thing. And then this is what really just gets my goose is layups. And I got to tell you, I got a good friend that loves TJD. I love what he does, but it's like Kaminga effect. When he goes up against his own self, guys with more or that length, I watch when he can't dunk it. His putbacks are like the finishing is not there. And I'm watching like TJD. He'll catch you on a good night and he'll flush it, but it's not consistent enough. And I'm watching too many times they're bunnies. And I'm like, and again, I'm citing out these two guys in Dallas, Gafford and Lively. Those are just two examples of when those dudes get the ball, they're going up, and it's pretty much 9 out of 10 times going in. And
You're getting a foul
TJD,
or you're dunking the ball. One of the two.
yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
just, I know he brings something to the table, but it's frustrating.
yeah.
And Trevor, you didn't ask, but I just got to say this. I'm looking at this Warrior roster that scored 85 season low points the other day, and it was against Boston. Okay. But the bottom line is if you look at the construction of this team, how do the Golden State Warriors, or Steph for that matter, I even think Draymond's in the way. Now, NBA basketball is about having a plethora of guys that can be a threat. And I love all these guys I'm about to name, but Looney, Dre, GP2, all these guys, TJ, nobody is a bucket getter. And
No.
now you're telling me Steph's older. Of course, you're stating the obvious, but man, give the guy some help.
Yeah, he's pressing a lot too, and it shows. And there's no doubt in my mind that Steph Curry is better than what I see him playing this
Okay,
year
no,
for
I'm gonna agree
multiple
with you.
reasons.
Okay,
He is pushing a lot to get when you see some of those games, especially in the last week or so, when they're close, he's pressing extra hard in the fourth quarter when he thinks he can put them on his shoulders and get the game done. And a lot of times he could do that, but you're right. There is not one bucket getter on this team that will play side by side with Steph Curry that scares anybody else. They're daring anybody to shoot but Steph Curry. They're just saying,
yep.
hey, if we lose to Moses Moody, fine. If we lose to Buddy Hield, fine, but we're not going to lose to Curry. And then they don't. And then they don't. So it is one of those situations where we need a scorer. No matter what it takes, we need to get a scorer here. I totally agree with you. I personally, when I was a kid, I was told it was the lowest scoring Warrior game in history. And I
Okay.
think it was back in 1990 or 1991. I was 11, and I forget who we even played, but everybody got a free Burger King cheeseburger because
I love it. I
because it
love
was
it.
so they scored 52 points, I want to say, or 51 points. They may have done worse than that since then. But I mean, we're talking about players where the best guy on your team was Daniel Marshall. Uh, you know,
UConn.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, and I liked him, but so I've seen bad Warrior seasons. I'm 44. I watched a really long time of bad Warrior teams before I got to see championships. So in a way, watching a year or two of bad teams, bad Warrior play is not bad, but I don't want to see them waste Curry's potential for the next 3 or 4 years, or however long he can play. All right, I think he's got more than 3 years left. But the bottom line, I guess, to all that is I do think there should be some patience. But damn, man, I think a move should be made this year for sure. I think there should be a trade that should be made. And I know
Yeah.
we're talking a lot about that right now instead of going through other stuff. But I just think the two biggest things right now are, why aren't you making a move? A question I wanted to ask you that doesn't come up a lot is Dunleavy. He's not very experienced as a GM. I personally don't didn't like the move when I heard it, and I'm not sure I really like it now. What are your thoughts on Dunleavy? Do you think he's got a future here, or do you think maybe things don't go right this year? They might even change it up to GM.
It's kind of funny. My partner Matt Steinman's brought it up to where he said he could, maybe after the great Bob Myers left, and if you just think about Bob leaving, my goodness, what did he know or what did he foresee?
Yeah,
Because this is not on his watch, but some will say it is in the sense of, Dunleavy was taking over something that, was bigger than him. But my partner Steinmetz brought up today, if Lakeup knows this, it could be as simple as in 3 years. Let's just say this season bottomed out, and I'm trying to be positive, but if it did, and maybe Dunleavy's gone or not here in 2 to 3 years. But to answer your question, I thought this team was in a different place when they announced Slow Mo was coming to town along with Buddy Hield and Melton, and we got off to the 12-3 start. So with that, you look at it now and it's like, man, we're not getting, much. But some will tell you Buddy Hield, who started off, I mean, it was incredible. Like Steph, his numbers are where they always been. So everybody, relax. This is who Buddy Hield is. But you asked me about Dunleavy, and I got to say this. We got the trading deadline, what, about 14 or 15 more days?
yep,
They may
coming
do
up
something, they may not. And I think, to answer your question, T, this offseason will give me a real indication of
where we're going.
of what he's doing and what he's bringing to the table, or is he just not a yes man doing what his boss is telling him? But again, call me naivete because I thought he was really trying to get it done in regard to Paul George and marketing. So I'm a dude that'll give you credit for trying. Do we really know they wanted him? No. Does it sound good? Yes. But we'll see what's going on. And I just hate that the one thing that I have a strike against Mike D for me is he looked us in the face, and I know it's business, poker, and said Jordan Poole's going nowhere. And in 36 hours, Jordan Poole's gone. And you got Chris Paul because we needed a grown up in the room. And how did that work? No playoffs. And then you flip Paul for basically nothing. That's an error to me.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't. I'm gonna say I'm not on the side of Dunleavy for the most
Okay.
part. I
Uh,
do think you're right. Give him a chance to try and go get a guy. Um, it's fine. He went and tried to get a few players, and I think he tried. I think the error on the part of Dunleavy was putting too much value on some of the players that we have now. You
yeah.
got to give something to get something, and when you say that, you know, Pajemski is untradeable, or
Man.
it's nobody's untradeable. Curry is only untradeable for one reason in my mind, and that is he brought us championships we have not seen in over 30 years, and he deserves to go out a Warrior, good, bad, or indifferent. I will be happy to watch the Warriors. I'm not happy to watch him lose, but I want to see him end his career as a Warrior. And I think that's important. Michael Jordan ended his career as a Bull. And if you look at the numbers Curry puts up, I don't want to get into the whole Curry, who's better, Curry, LeBron James thing, but only one of them changed the game. And I'm just going to say that.
Wow.
Only one changed the game. Nobody, my kid, 7 years old, my 20-year-old, that gap difference, right? They're both at the park shooting three-pointers. And I got to reel them in and be like, guys, you got to start hitting shots in the key, hitting the mid range. Then you
Yeah.
can get there. They don't want to do that. Why is that? It's not because of LeBron James. It's because of Steph Curry. So for that reason, I see that he has added more value to the game. I mean, anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just had to
No,
put
he
it out
transcended
there.
the game. You're
Not,
right. He
yeah,
transcended the game. And I'll tell you this, Trevor, not to take us down this road, but I want nothing less than the Steph Curry to play in another uniform. He's shooting 40% from deep. The dude still is the best shooter in the game, I believe. And how attractive, if we really want to go there, I mean, you can't do a rebuild and have Steph and Dre. That's just me. I don't want it.
Yeah.
So I don't want Curry to be out of a Warrior uniform, but we were throwing this around. If you could put him on a Cleveland or a team where he had help in threats, Steph Curry still has that impact. And I want it to be here, but I'm looking, like how long, Trevor, if they don't make it this year, is Steph going to say, this is how I saw the twilight ending?
Yeah, I'd give it another year.
Okay.
I think
All
I'd
right.
give it another year before he said, "All right, I got to try and make this happen somewhere." The one unique thing about Steph Curry, and you can see it in the way he talks, I obviously don't know him, but in the way that he speaks, he has such passion and commitment, and he believes that this team will win another one with all of his heart. I don't think there's anything in Steph Curry's mind that says, I'm not getting one more with the Warriors before I'm done. I don't think he thinks that for a second. And the other thing that I want to say is that we have an owner that likes to spend money. So a rebuild doesn't necessarily have to happen in the way that most traditional teams go about doing a rebuild, which is through the draft. So Joe Lacob this offseason, like you mentioned, it'll tell you a lot, right? Because I know Joe Lacob's going to spend money. It's a matter of, and here's the other thing on top of that. There are not many teams in the NBA that want to see the Warriors win anymore.
Oh,
So
no
how much
doubt.
harder does that make the trade market for the Warriors? Nobody wants to trade with them.
And I
Nobody.
think that's why Ballmer and all these owners are, and I get it. Joey Lightyears dubbed himself Joey Lightyears, and there was jealousy, and we talked about the tax and the aprons, and I believe it's the Lake Up rule. But I honestly believe Paul George, regardless of if we would be better or not, I think we would have. That's not even a question.
Oh,
But
for
the
sure.
bottom line is Ballmer didn't want to send him to the Pacific Division rivals and help Joe Lacob kind of extend the window. That's what I believe. So that just to hearing you say that, I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. You hear the players around the NBA say it every once in a while whenever the topic comes up. I mean, they despise what the Warriors are, and it's just like look no further than the New England Patriots for the last 10 years. Nobody liked the Patriots and Tom Brady continuing to win because they were just tired of seeing it. If you're a Patriots fan, it's fantastic. If you're a Warriors fan, it's great. Everybody else kind of, we've turned into, the team
Yeah.
that everybody hates. And that's I love that. I love that scenario because that means we're trying. We're trying to win. But I think Joe Lacob will spend money as long as Dunleavy can can perform as a GM, can go out there and get the players we need. If you look at who recruited even Durant, I mean, it was more than Bob Myers. It took a team effort to get Durant here, and they were winning championships, right? So you don't have those guys around anymore.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you put that pitch together to get players here, and it's going to have to come with a lot of money. But I know that Joe Lacob will spend it, so maybe we don't have to look at this as an entire rebuild. We can sell off some players to get somebody like Jimmy Butler and go get. How many players are going to be out there in the offseason that are going to perform better than the roster we have now if we go get Jimmy Butler? Just pick up some free agents along the way. I'd say we could do at least as good, if not
Yeah.
better. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be too worried about making that move, is all I'm
Yeah, and I call those moves around the edges if it's not, play, the good, alpha dogs like Jimmy Butler or whatnot, but got moves around the edges. And you brought up Schroeder. I like his game, but I'm not even mad at him because it's not, gelling. But it wasn't gelling before he got here. You know what I mean? He's a different type of player, ball dominant, dribble, dribble, dribble. He's giving it his all, but it's not what I envisioned, and I'm not mad at him. It's just like, it was a move and you make
Yeah.
it to find out. But I'll tell you this, T, you didn't ask me, but one thing that's really, I don't want, what word am I looking for? Irritate me, or I'm real nervous about is I don't know if you caught on our afternoon show, Willard and Dibbs, Coach Kerr was on there and they asked him about Jonathan Kuminga's availability. He said he's not even close. And
Yeah.
I'll say that to say there's some tough games coming up, but the All-Star game is right around the corner. And I just feel like somebody's coming to your house and you didn't clean it. And
I know.
that I want the Warriors to be, and they're already people, the national, they're honing in on, are the Warriors done? They're 11th.
Yeah.
But man, if this were record-wise to get a little, worse, Trevor, I feel like the All-Star game in a crazy way, and you'd be like, worry about something else. But I just feel like that's coming at the most inopportune time.
No, I know. I agree with you. You've got to start stringing together some wins before that happens. Because if it keeps going the way it goes and we go through the All-Star game and then come back after the All-Star break, I mean, it's
Oh
going to be
man,
really
T,
hard to
I
get
got you.
moving. It's going to
Yeah.
be hard to get moving. So I hear you. I agree with you. I I hope that they can put together that Boston game really came at a bad time though.
Yeah.
Curry was in and out, and we don't have Green. And I'm not saying we would have won if Green was in the lineup. We got blown out, but it came at a
And
bad
Coach
time when
Kerr,
we're
T, real quick after the game, I guess this is why I'm getting a little irritated too with him. I mean, Sacramento beat us with Draymond Green at home.
I
I
know.
still haven't gotten over that. But
Yeah.
to hear Kerr talk about, oh, we've been competitive, like you shouldn't have to play or even want to play that card after the obvious. But
Yeah.
after Monday, things happen with the three ball. I don't like hearing that verbiage after the fact. Like even if I wanted to use it, I wouldn't do it. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, they play Sacramento, and I think, okay, we got payback, but we're shorthanded, but no excuses, Trevor. I just don't like what I'm seeing and hearing, man.
I
That's
agree
all.
with you. I agree with you. I hope that they can start turning around somehow. I don't feel good about it because one word that I haven't brought up with you in or anybody else is, and I hate to use this word, but soft is a word that I'd like to describe
Oh,
the team as. If you see we talked about it earlier with Trey Sasson Davis. How many times did he go down the court with the ball in his hand, toss it to somebody else
yeah,
2 feet in front of the rim, or try to do a layup instead of just dunking it? Like whatever happened to the nasty tenacity
yeah.
of like dunk that ball. You're either gonna get fouled or you're gonna put somebody, you're gonna posterize somebody. Something's gonna happen. They're not trying to do any of that. I am confused by that level of play. When you see players that aren't just getting up for the game, I don't know if anybody can help me understand that. I don't. If I was Kerr, that would be my biggest question going into the locker room at halftime when I see stuff like that go down. It's like, why didn't you just stuff it? Why didn't you just?
No.
Why are we settling for 3 pointers when we can go in and get the two? I mean, it's just
It's
no.
frustrating, T. I'm with you, man.
Yeah,
It's very frustrating, and I hope
yeah,
it changes. And like I said, for me personally, you mentioned effort. The first time I ever questioned that was watching Boston. And I got to be honest, Boston was what, 8-8 in their last 16. They hadn't exactly been lighting the world on fire. They're
yeah.
champs. I get it. We beat them once. Obviously, that wasn't the same team when we played them Saturday. We weren't, but it just felt like they didn't care about guarding the 3-point line. And that seems to be every game, Trevor. Just throw a couple passes against the Warriors and you're going to get a good look. I don't
Yep,
know.
yep,
But now
yep.
I'm with where you're at. Like I'm really watching this Kings game to see if they can kind of remedy that.
I agree. This should be a bounce back game. If they go get blown out again tonight, it's only going to go get
Ah,
worse and worse from here. So let's hope that doesn't happen. The only other question, man, I was going to ask you, and I don't know, I'm kind of looking at it. I mean, is Steph Curry starting to need to do a little bit more load management? I'm seeing his knees kind of break down. I don't I don't think that's why I kind
yeah.
of left that question out, man. I don't think that it's a
We
problem.
could talk about it though. Listen, he's about to be 37 years old, right? The bottom line is this dude is and I don't have Steph Curry underwear. I work with a partner that would slap both of us right now and tell us, what do you expect, my guy Steiny, from a
Yeah.
37-year-old if his name was Chuck? But the bottom line is I see on some nights he's got bilateral tendonitis in both knees. He's playing out there with the sprained thumb or whatnot. But there's so many quick Keon Ellis type of guys now that when you get this age, the quickness is they're winning the quickness battle.
Yep.
So if he doesn't have the necessary help around him, Trevor, it's going to be hard to generate and create that separation that we're used to.
Yep.
Now, some of this is just natural. Father Time's undefeated. But when I watch him and he's in a zone, I'm like, my gosh, this is our guy, the chef. But right now, it's obvious to me, I will admit, of course, there's a little attrition.
Yeah.
but it's more of what's not around him. Draymond, Looney in the game. Teams know we don't got to worry about those guys. And have you seen some of these steal shots of recent NBA games where Curry's got like the box three dudes on him?
Yeah.
It's like, come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it always is. He's always triple covered. It's especially at the top of the key or the minute he passes half court,
Right.
he's triple covered at least until he gets around the 3 point line. They loosen up a little bit, but that's how much they respect the Warriors right now, man. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. That's why I kind of didn't ask that question because I'm seeing Curry run around and make some moves and dice people up still.
Okay.
So I don't think that that's an issue. I thought maybe a couple of games ago I was like, man, he's sitting out a little bit more. Nah, I don't think that's it. So, man, I know that you're busy, and I really want to
I had a
appreciate you for
blast.
saying, hey, thank you for coming, man. I really
Yeah, no
appreciate it.
doubt. You know where to reach me. Give us a call, man. This was a
I'll,
blast. I was looking forward to it.
Me too, man. I'll definitely be calling in every once in a
Okay.
while, every week if I can.
And
When
just
I get a
stay in
break with my
touch. You got
day
my
job.
number, man. Let's just, I mean, hopefully this season will culminate in a playoff series, but you know where I'm at. You got my number and you know where I'm at during the day. You've been awesome.
Sure. All right. Thanks, brother.
Okay,
I
take it
really
easy. Have a
appreciate
good
it.
night, T.
All right. Have a good
All right.
night. Bye bye.